So for the specifics of this presentation, I want to talk about using iBook as a form of a presentation tool. So here in my library, I have different books that I've made, like this one I've made, this one, this one, this one, and this one, regarding just the material about different topics. With iBooks, it allows the user to interact with content in a brand new way. So, for example, in iBooks, you using iBook Author, you use different widgets to bring forth the content in different ways. So you can input videos, of course, your text. So here's an example of a video that happens right at the beginning of the movie or the iBook. So you can put movies in here. Of course, a lot of pictures. Here's all the content. So it's a nice interface to have the users work with to learn different content and material. iBooks Author is actually the software where you can make iBooks to put on iPads. So you want to open it up here. And the focus again with this presentation is to show you how iBooks can be used as a presentation tool. And that goes simply beyond being just an iBook. So instead of using, that would replace, your PowerPoint presentations or a keynote or a Prezi. I think iBook has some really neat features that can help you to make your presentations interactive, but it also keeps your audience engaged with you. So when you open up the iBooks Author, I mean, it's a free application that you can download from the App Store. You can pick any one of these interfaces to make your presentation. I've done some already in the past, which I want to open up just to kind of show you what I've been talking about in regards to, I've used iBooks as actual content in terms of like a book, where I've used it in my classes where I've made that for that specific purpose. But recently I've been experimenting with using iBook for presentations. So this is what I'm going to focus on with a presentation. I made this iBook for a presentation that I gave on how we use iMovie in our classroom. And this was a really neat project to work on. So as you can tell here, the images and the graphics and the templates are so easy to use in regards to putting content in there. And as you can see, pictures, we're in a generation where pictures and videos are, what people pay attention to. So as you can see here, the content includes a bunch of pictures, includes a bunch of images and graphics that will engage the audience. So what I did with this is I made an iBook. So to walk you through the process of making an iBook, so let's just create a new one. And I typically like to stick with this photo book one here, or even this template here, but anyone will work. So as you open it, you can see you can add and you can change the templates. You can open this here. You can make it a, cover. So there's a bunch of text here, and then you can add chapters, different pages. It's a really easy interface and really pretty intuitive. You just have to kind of give it some time to, work through it. So usually what I do is look at the beginning. It's just like a PowerPoint. You have your intro, and then you have your first point here, and then you can add another chapter would be equivalent to another bullet point on your PowerPoint. So here's another one. So this could be your introduction right here. This could be your second or your first point in your presentation, your second point, and then continue on. That's what I did with my presentation here. So as you can see with this one, this was my introduction. And so here's our quick overview, a picture, and then we have right here on the right side, here are some of the facts that I'd like to highlight. But as you can see here, these pictures are here, and all you have to do is literally drop and drag photos into this template. So let me pull up the other one to give you a really quick example here. So here I have this. So let me just pull up my iPhoto here, and you can see what I'm talking about. And I will just pick one photo. I'll pick this one, and I will drop it. And there you go. I have a photo here of my the campus visit that we did. One really cool thing is that once you, of course, it can be made into an iBook, but then in terms of sharing purposes, you can turn it into a PDF. So you would just click on share and then export. There's three different options here. And so with a PDF, you can export it. And I actually already did. But the way the PDF comes out is really nice. So I will show pictures or files. So here we go. So here is the PDF. And this is what it looks like when I can email it out, because a file is pretty big when you export it to an iBook file, and you just can't email it. But you can use Google Drive too, but that's another conversation. But as you can see here, just as I have laid it out on my iBook interface, it has exported to a PDF. So when I sent it out to the people that attended my presentation, this is what they get. So it's like the presentation at the tip of their hands. And then this one here, this iBook I just made for a presentation. And again, I just kind of want to walk you through this and how it can be used as a presentation. So as you can see, the chapters I use as bullet points. So this first one is an overview of native SOAR. Second bullet point is engaging our students. Third, implications, contact information, and references. So that's like how typically, in a PowerPoint or a keynote at the very beginning of the presentation, you have an overview slide and it has the bullet points there. So that's what it would translate to is chapters here. And then within these, it's cool because then you can have the pictures, and on the right side you have your facts, just like a typical PowerPoint slide. But the cool thing is that it moves. And when you add widgets on here, you can mess around and play with that. So I think the benefits, again, is you can add widgets on here. You can add keynote presentations or PowerPoint, and you can add, videos. You can add different graphics. In terms of the challenges for using iBook as a presentation tool, there's a fair share of them. So first off, I had a hard time looking online and finding resources that actually talk about using iBook as a presentation tool. And so one challenge is that there's limited amount of resources. And honestly, in my Pearl tree here, let me see if I can zoom in a little bit. There are different topics, but like 5 ideas for using iBooks Author and iBooks 2. A lot of it is geared towards how to actually use iBooks, and not really as using it as a presentation tool. So these were just some of the websites that I found that talked about iBooks that could give you ideas of how to, incorporate widgets or incorporate different elements to make your iBook really rich. And so that's one of the downfalls. And I also went to YouTube as well and typed in, how to use iBook as a presentation tool. And I think there was maybe one video that came up, but it wasn't very helpful in terms of how to actually, provide tips or give some feedback on how to actually do that. So that's one downfall. The other downfall in using iBooks is actually sometimes sharing, I've found in the past, has been a little challenging. Again, when you go to share, one thing that's I think really awesome, of course, is to make a PDF out of your presentation. So that can be helpful. You can disseminate that to your class or to people in your presentation who don't have iPads. That's a nice way to do that. In terms of an actual iBook, it creates a file, which is awesome. So you have that on your computer. But in terms of sharing it, that's where I found some challenges. I've often used Google Drive to share my iBook and to provide details to the users if they want to download it on their iBook, and that takes time, and that's also a process that some people who aren't as familiar with technology can get frustrated with. And in terms of actually publishing it to the Apple Store or the App Store, the iBooks App Store, that takes some time too, and you have to make sure that your content is not copyrighted material. And so I often use, I'm a photographer on my side job, just kidding, as a fun, hobby that I have. I take a lot of pictures. So all the pictures that I've included in here are my own pictures or pictures of those where I've gotten permission from students to use. Like this is a Wordle. that I've gotten permission to use. And this is another picture that a student has used as well in the class. So that's another challenge. And I think in terms of learning how to work this, it could take some time. It could be very challenging for some people that aren't as familiar with some of the Apple software. But I think that if you really, can push through that and really, challenge yourself to try to use this as a presentation tool. Again, I will tell you from personal experience, from what I've done in the classroom and for presentations, the feedback that I've gotten in using iBooks has been really beneficial because it's something new, something fresh, and it is a way that engages the students and the audience in a creative and a unique way. My honest opinion is that I think that going through the resources that are there for of how to use iBook as it was originally intended, I think that'll be helpful. And by just, collecting, websites and different publications about how to use that, that'll give a lot more insight of like how the program actually works. Another thing too, in terms of solutions, I honestly think that by you just going in there and messing around and creating your own, iBook and checking to see how these features actually work, there's a lot of insight. That's how I learned how to use iBook. I went to YouTube and I actually went to iBook and just messed around with different features on here. Because again, some of the challenging things, like I mentioned before, is that when you use it as a presentation tool, you have to manipulate these as well because they weren't, these slides weren't created, like a PowerPoint slide. And so I have to change the size of the text and make sure that it's legible and readable, for people. Because I mean, something like this is not going to be able to be read, when you project it on a PowerPoint or project it on a screen. So again, I think honestly, the two things I would recommend is checking out the websites that actually talk about how to use iBook as it was originally intended, because you get a good sense of, what you can do and what you can't do. And then coming and playing and messing around with it, by yourself, is also a great way to learn and use as a tool. Just some last thoughts here about using iBooks Author and iBooks as a presentation tool. It's really a challenge to do this, but I think that overall the final product that you get with your actual iBook and a PDF that's generated from it, it's worthwhile. And again, being able to incorporate photos and videos uh, is really what sets apart this uh, interface, this application. And your presentations are going to be lively, they're going to be exciting. People are going to want to ask you how you made your presentation. And I think that really using iBook as a presentation is a gateway, to really incorporating what we know now, and how to engage our students in the classroom, and that is absolutely through video and through photos. So again, I hope this provides more insight on how to use, iBooks as a presentation tool. And if you have any comments or questions, let me know and I'll try to help.